SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C Spire. Power your home or business with C Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C Spire. C Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday, y'all.
Heck dang yeah, another delightful day across the Magnolia State. But Rhino, it is my understanding that we got a little weather moving through. A little cold front perhaps tomorrow will sweep across the state as they typically do from the northwest to the southeast. Might bring some showers, some storms, perhaps strong winds. No tornadic activity.
Yeah, just
predicted.
A blustery, bleary day for parts of the Magnolia State. But with it will come fall temperatures because the overnight lows across the Magnolia State for Sunday night into Monday morning looking like the 40s.
Oh, dang. That's downright cold. As I like to say to my wife, it's freaking freezing. Well, but it's supposed to be rather delightful on Monday when I looked at it, like high in the upper 70s perhaps.
Oh, yeah, the highs all next week, the last I checked, which was about an hour and a half ago now, were 70s-ish.
Okay.
Not real hot, not too terribly humid, so it should be nice.
Yeah. Well, it needs to be because Monday, it's the house band in action at the Barn Burner. Representative Lance Varner from Florence, Mississippi, South Rankin County. He's got a nice farm there. This will be, I think, the third such barn burner event. It's safe to say it has a political bent to it. I believe the governor is scheduled to be there, the Speaker of the House, other statewide leaders, and it'll be well attended. But the most important thing is the house band is going to be playing a little music, entertaining the crowd. Mississippi Farm Bureau, which happens to be the operator-owner of the building in which we are positioned, will be sponsoring the event, providing some of the fare, if you will. So we're looking forward to that. Should be fun. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. My gosh, it's like we need a 6-hour show here to cover it all. First thing is old John Bolton, former Trump national security advisor. He has been indicted.
Wait, so you mean AOL isn't capable of encrypting classified information?
Can you believe that?
The funniest thing I saw about the AOL was, people have been memeing on it and joking on it, but somebody asked the question, did he actually have a AOL subscription, or did he just have access to a ton of those free trial CDs?
Well, John Bolton, of course, I think it's fair to say he doesn't look favorably on the president. He's also often criticized as being a warmonger, isn't he? He seems to always want to, let's just go in there and play shoot 'em up. Him and his pal Lindsey Graham, have they ever met a war they didn't like? Doesn't seem like it. Mr. Bolton's 76 years old. Some of the memes are hilarious, though, aren't they? Oh, man. He faces 18 counts under the Espionage Act. That, according to the federal indictment filed in the U.S. District Court of Maryland.
And that's the main difference between the previous conversations in recent memory about confidential information and classified documents and stuff like that. He wasn't just hanging on to some stuff he should have turned back in. He was actively communicating it with outside people that did not have the clearance to look at it.
It's just shocking to me that a person in his position engaged in such activity. It's like you're the national security advisor. You got one main job, national security, yet you're sharing classified information that, in fact, threatens and puts at risk the security of the nation. And you're personally facilitating it. It's mind-boggling. It's another one of those things where only truth is crazier than fiction here. The national security advisor is breaching national security. Has violated the Espionage Act, which I'm pretty sure was designed to secure the country. What am I missing here? Man, oh man. He has surrendered to authorities. You know, I will say this, and look, I don't feel sorry for the guy because I feel a little bit like this was a bone he was picking with the president. And I think that's just because the president wasn't favorable to him, shall we say. Wasn't friendly to him. But you're 76. You don't have many years left on the earth. And you're dealing with this. But you know what? You should have thought about that. You're already a senior citizen. I'll be nice about it. When you were doing this crap. Man, oh man. Just unbelievable.
It's almost like there's a whole cadre of people in the United States government that feel like they're above the law.
Oh, almost? No, I think that's a done deal. And so many times, we've said on the show, I know a lot of folks have expressed a strong interest in implementing term limits for those who were elected into office. And I maintain where we ought to put the term limits is on people like this. It's the people in the so-called deep state swamp of agencies where we need to limit the amount of time that they hold those various positions and serve there, if you could call it serving. But because of what you just said a minute ago, it's almost as if they feel untouchable, impenetrable, totally immune.
I mean, D.C.'s disconnected enough, but then if you're even insulated from some of the politics of D.C., it's got to be a strange world, a bubble to live in.
I agree. It sure seems like it. So there's some stuff going on in the state as well we need to get to. And I've reviewed this a little bit, but school board member in DeSoto County that seems to be a little hesitant to condemn a pedophile. Did I see that right? Did I get that right? I know we got Kelly Bennett coming on at 11:20 today. Of course, she is from the SuperTalk Mississippi News Department. She'll run down all the news from across the state. But that's something that not only has gotten a lot of attention, but a whole bunch of folks attending a school board meeting, right? Even students speaking up about this in DeSoto County. We got plenty of great members of our audience that, of course, reside in DeSoto County. Perhaps they could share some insight on what they know about this. But this is kind of bizarre that this is going on in the state of Mississippi. And then we got this race for Senate coming up next year. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, of course, the current office holder of one of the state's Senate seats, up for re-election next year. The Democrats appear to be poised to spend a bunch of money on that race. They, of course, would be backing District Attorney Scott Colon running for Senate. Issued another press release yesterday, met with soybean farmers to discuss tariffs. Of course, the soybean farmers in the country are feeling the effects of the tariffs, mainly because China says we ain't buying your soybeans. Oh, man. As we're going into break here, I got to give a shout-out to my hometown right here, Madison County Republican Women. We had a drawdown fundraiser event at the house last night, well attended, a lot of fun, honestly. Had them all in the house and raised a little money for the Madison County Republican Women. Leah Ferretti, you know her. She's been a guest on the show before. She is a strong advocate for education choice and other conservative policy matters in the state with the Madison County Republican Women. That was a lot of fun, Rhino. The drawdown was pretty cool. They gave away $2,500 out of an automated system. One of my friends, Jackie Meck, had developed for an automated drawdown. I kind of served as the MC for that. It was pretty cool. But one lucky winner walked away with $2,500. We're coming right back. This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Okay, is everybody ready?
I'm ready. Ready here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
That's Annie Lennox of the Eurythmics. You've seen these little AI-generated reels that show some of these artists from their early days to present day.
Oh, yeah.
How it just kind of evolves and morphs. Saw one on her the other day. I don't know what her age is, but she doesn't look like she's aged hardly at all, man. Annie Lennox, very unique.
70 years old.
Okay, 70. Yeah, she doesn't look it in me. Look, you see her? What I'm talking about? Looks good, doesn't she? For her age, for sure. So she's
just missing the bright orange hair.
That's right. That's what she was most known for. Yeah, the other group I remember, just kind of from the era that sometimes I will mix up a little bit with the Eurythmics, and I don't know why, I just do. And that's the Thompson Twins with the hair. I used to like the spoofs Saturday Night Live would do, you remember, because back in those days it was all about angles, right? The shoulders on your jacket, it was soft around you the way it hung, but the shoulders had to extend about 2 feet on either side, making for the upside down triangle look. You remember that, and of course the length of the coats. Different. Typically, the sizing is you hold your hands for a gentleman. You hold your arm straight down, and you want to be able to cup your hand around the bottom of the coat. You couldn't even touch the bottom of the coat. Remember David Bowie? I mean, his went down to the top of his knees, and he had the big wide shoulders, and of course the triangular haircut.
Oh, less of a sport coat or a jacket and more of a duster.
That's exactly right. But it was perfect. And the way...
And then when you make it brightly colored, does it become a zoot suit?
That's a zoot suit is exactly what I was thinking about. A lot of people may not remember that or know what that is, but that was kind of popular at one time.
It had I think its last revival, actual real big revival outside of regional revivals would have been... Zoot Suit Riot in the 90s when they had that weird swing craze.
Yeah. That's I'd say so. Late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, somewhere in there. Bowie, of course, Also was really good about being able to sort of rotate his knee. That's all he did when he danced, right? He kind of stood sort of rigid, but he was able to move those knees around, almost doing complete circles with his leg. Pretty cool. Digressing a little bit here on a Friday. The music you bumped us in with made me think about that. So,
and I do have sprinkled throughout the show some Kiss because
Ace Frehley.
Got to pay homage to the late great Ace Frehley.
Man, sorry to see that. One of the greatest show bands of all time. It's more about that than it was the music itself. And I'm trying to think of the name of the program that used to air on one of the kind of secondary channels that was Gene Simmons. I really enjoyed that because Gene Simmons, first and foremost, was a capitalist. He was a musician secondarily.
The one that followed his family around?
Yeah.
It was Gene Simmons' family jewels.
That's exactly right. And I'm trying to think of his...
Started on A&E.
A&E. I knew it was something like that. So, interesting. So, Frehley was 70, right? Or 72? Yeah, it was... And Annie Lennox was 70, you said. Ace Frehley?
Ace Frehley was 74.
74, okay. Cause,
apparently he had a fall about a month ago.
Yeah.
And has been fighting a brain bleed. And his family decided it was time to take him off life support.
Man.
He went surrounded by,
Dang.
all reported, surrounded by friends and family.
You know that's got to be an incredibly difficult decision there. Man. But you got to try to rationalize it somewhere, some way. But Simmons is 76. Now, the Family Jewels show had featured his family, as you mentioned. I want to say his son's name was Nick. I remember that because my son's name is Nick. His wife, Shannon Tweed, who was kind of known as a soft porn star, if you will. She is a gorgeous woman, no doubt about that.
Did they ever technically get married, or is she still his common law wife?
You know, that's right, because the show chronicled that a lot. They never really got married, but they did live together and had children and so forth.
I think that show was the first time I'd heard the phrase common law marriage.
Okay, so I'm reading here something. When you were talking, I looked it up. It says they did get married. Really? Huh. We have to look at that. She is 68, a Canadian model and actress. So they got, I guess, married. Yeah, Sophie was the daughter's name. But,
yeah, they got married. Let's see. The show started in 2006. They got married 5 years in. They got married in 2011.
Well, they
so you
dated.
can tell I was a huge fan of the show. I kept up with it religiously.
They dated 28 years. Do you think maybe you've had enough time to figure out if this deal may work? But again, I just want to point out that Gene Simmons was a capitalist. He was always dreaming up ways of making money. And boy, did he ever make some money on Kiss. And it wasn't from selling records. It was all the paraphernalia, it's memorabilia and stuff.
The comic book with their blood in it.
That's right. And all the statues and clothing and just go on and on and on and on. I mean, and the whole deal, just the act of the whole deal that he personally created, came up with the idea for all the various characters on stage. Oh, man. Well, we're just having a little fun here on Middays. Mose on the C Spire text line said, I saw that John Bolton was claiming he was doing what many did, keep a diary for a future book. That's what he's saying, Mose. You're right. Even so, I can guarantee that you can't keep classified data in these. Right, but don't let that stand in the way of your future entrepreneurial exploits. Oh, my gosh. So, what about Southwest Airlines? No more open seating. You have to do like you do on the other ones. Get actual seat assignment and sit in that seat. Oh, man. End of an era. Southwest is not a terribly profitable company. by the way. And, that IT interruption they had a couple of years ago, that didn't help their situation. I think I told you the story about that. Delta was one of our big customers, and the Delta IT folks said, you guys really ought to go call on Southwest. We did, went and called on them, and identified lots of needs, just like the CIO at Delta told us they need a lot of stuff. And I think I told you, they said, yeah, we're not going to spend any money on that. I went back and told the Delta folks that. They said, it's just a matter of time. It's going to crash. Exactly what happened. We geeks know about that kind of stuff. I know there's always a tendency to think, oh, you're just trying to sell me something. No, you really do have a problem here. you need to address, and it cost them. Man. I can't help but think, Rhino, about the first big breach that proliferated Social Security numbers throughout the bad guys' domain. That was Equifax, because they got every damn Social Security number. And that was a direct result of a deficiency, a flaw in some of the operating system software on Cisco's network routers, which they've got a bunch of. Any kind of environment like that's got massive network infrastructure, literally racks and racks and racks and racks full of it. And, of course, when that stuff ships, it's code. Guess what? Most code's got flaws in it when it ships. But the companies behind it are obligated to warranty that code and stand behind it. And the best thing to do is say, yep, we figured out a problem. Here's an update. You could set your phone right on your apps right now to automatically update. They're constantly updating, fixing bugs. Same thing here. And what the Equifax people said? Yeah, we don't have time to mess with that. And Cisco warned them. And then they got breached, and everybody's Social Security. Still, that's where a lot of the scams come from. Still, from that Equifax breach. And Cisco warned them, and then they tried to sue Cisco, and Cisco went to court and said, we told them, we honored our warranty, and the case was dropped after that. But guys, if you want to know why you get scammed a lot using your Social Security number, that's where it started. Now, obviously, we're constantly adding Social Security numbers, so there's more breaching going on, but that's where it all started. In other words, keep your stuff current and update it. But be methodical and responsible and careful with that. Stephen Skultety from Ole Miss is going to come on in the next segment and talk about Vice President J.D. Vance visiting the University of Mississippi.
It's so awesome! Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Come on, let's get on with the show!
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He's told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's all worthwhile. He's home. Let the children use it. Let the children use it. Let all the children do get it.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays. We are live from the Element Wealth Studio. It's our pleasure to welcome now Stephen Skultety. He's a professor of philosophy, chair of philosophy and religion at the University of Mississippi, director of the Declaration of Independence Center for the Study of American Freedom. Professor Skultety, always good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime, Gerard. It's great to see you, too.
You bet. So, the big thing is we got Turning Point USA coming to Ole Miss on the 29th of October and recently announced that the program will be headlined by none other than the Vice President of the United States. That's J.D. Vance and, of course, Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk. So, man, this is big-time, huge news for the university. I know this is something, just knowing you've been working on behind the scenes as well. We're grateful for that. I am going to be attending. I look forward to seeing you there. Tell us about this.
Well, it is super exciting for the university, and I'm also just super excited for the student group. The Turning Point USA chapter at Ole Miss. The Declaration Center, we go out of our way to help the different registered student organizations here on campus that are mission aligned. So we step in and we help College Republicans, Young Americans for Freedom, Young Americans for Liberty, Rebels for Life, and the Federalist Society as well. And all of those student organizations, they're led by students.
Sure.
And as they meet different difficulties and struggle to figure out how things are work, the Declaration Center can kind of step in and show them the ropes and help them navigate a lot of this. Anyway, this was a Turning Point USA student group that was in conversations with the Turning Point USA national chapter, and they got the ball rolling on this. And the Declaration Center has been happy to help the student group make this their event. And I will say, I've been seeing things on social media about how J.D. Vance really wants this event to be about the students. And this really will be an event that focuses on the legacy of Charlie Kirk and the legacy he had for students. So it's going to be a very student-focused event, and I think that's appropriate and exciting.
Yeah, and, it appears to me, and I think you would probably share my perspective here, that nobody was better at connecting with students than Charlie Kirk. He, of his age, wasn't far removed from the age of the students. That's the first thing. Second thing is, he would talk to anybody about anything. Unfortunately, some of those who didn't particularly share his views would go out of their way to suppress him and sort of shout him down, but he never let that really factor into his behavior. But we should all be Charlie Kirk in that respect and just be able to have respectful civil discourse even with those with whom we disagree.
I agree. There are different ways of conducting conversations and debates and dialogues. And, Charlie Kirk kind of invented and kind of perfected a certain kind of public dialogue that he was incredibly successful with. And I think the thing I came to appreciate since his assassination was just the way in which young conservatives and young conservative students who watched him regularly just felt a real emotional tie to him. I mean, I knew they admired him. I knew he was popular, but he really was one of these people who was able just to connect with people in a way where people just intuitively felt that he was a good guy who in person could be their friend. And
exactly.
Sort of kind of a relaxed comfortability people had with him. So, when he was assassinated, I was teaching my conservative political philosophy class when the news of his death came about. And, there were a lot of the students were tearing up. And then when we brought students together later to talk about it, I mean, there weren't many dry eyes in the room because people really had an emotional connection with him.
Yeah. So you mentioned the list, the series of organizations on campus that I think it's fair to say we could describe them as all leaning to the right, politically speaking, philosophically speaking. But talk to us about the. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Steve.
Yeah. No. Just philosophically. The kind of criterion I set down for them if I'm going to provide help is they have to be able to describe their organization as fitting in the big tent of the conservative intellectual movement of the 20th and then early 21st century. And that, lots of scholars have written about what that movement looks like, what are the different components of that movement. And so a student organization can't just come along and say, well, I think you should help me because I'm a student organization. I mean, I always require them to say, well, explain to me how you fit within this very well documented tradition of the conservative intellectual movement.
Right.
And so you're right. All of these groups philosophically believe that conserving the American founding and the American heritage of liberty is a good and valuable thing and worth preserving.
Yeah. So my question is for you, what can you share with us about the organizations on campus that lean in the other direction? And do you sort of cross-pollinate with them in any way? Or do we have any kind of just gatherings or communications?
Not right now. And that's something actually I would like to fix going forward. On my to-do list for a long time has been to have some kind of annual event where all of the student organizations that have a political philosophy are able to sort of stand up, give a pitch, and in like 5 to 10 minutes explain kind of what their worldview is, what are their basic principles. And then all those student groups could have maybe tables around the outside of the room where they could have sign-up sheets and pamphlets and I would love for progressive and liberal, and even if there's a socialist student group on club, bring them in. Let's let the discussion begin, and let's get some pluralism, some intellectual pluralism represented on campus. I'm happy to do that. I mean, I guess I've just been so busy.
Oh, sure.
Just trying to help these struggling student organizations who are mission aligned. Yeah. That's on the to-do list, but it's still a kind of a little bit far ways off. But that is on my to-do list.
Well,
and I welcome that.
And I commend you that. And here's why, Professor, is because in doing so, you're exemplifying what your organization's all about, and that's freedom, and that starts with the most fundamental of freedoms, which is the freedom to assemble and speak your own mind, right? This really is an exhibit of that, if you will, an example of it.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And, now that there's lots of debates, even in the tent of the conservative intellectual movement, of course, there's lots of debates about, what is the meaning of liberty? How do you flesh that out? And I know, as you know, Gerard, there's the kind of libertarians, or the constitutionalists, or the social conservatives, or the fusionists, or the
that's right.
They're all going to have slightly different takes on what are the different components that are required to make us free as an American. But that's great. That's an exciting and interesting debate, and I think it's been at the heart of the dynamic that's made the conservative intellectual movement successful for all these years is precisely because there isn't a completely unified view.
That's right.
and it allows for the movement. It allows for the movement too to kind of be flexible and to accommodate different situations that just the world throws up at us. So I think that's a sign of that regular disagreement and debate is a sign of health, not sickness.
That's absolutely true.
Things can get so out of kilter when debate and dialogue stops, and then other forms of conflict kind of rush in to take its place. And that's something we have to be mindful for and kind of prepare for and make sure we understand how that happens too. So we can't be naive that we don't have to worry about that. But building arenas for debate and discussion is something worth our effort. And it is something that requires effort. It doesn't happen by magic.
And hopefully the message and the takeaway from that is students see, hey, it actually is possible to engage in civil discourse with people that I don't agree with. We want them to see that at that age, right?
100%. I tell people this all the time. It's a muscle you have to exercise.
That's right.
Standing in front of someone who disagrees with you and going back and forth with them without losing your temper or without resorting to cheap shots, without losing your cool. Yeah. That is not natural. That is not, your emotions want to just, get up in their face. So it's just you've got to get your debate muscles worked out so you can do it regularly and calmly.
We got a break. Can you hang? We got another short segment on the other side. Can you hang with us?
Absolutely.
Great.
Happy to do it.
Yep. We're coming right back.
Hey, this is Bob, and if you're
interrupt this program. Gerard Gibert.
Here we go.
This is huge.
Huge news.
Huge news. Huge. You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. We're visiting with Stephen Skultety. He serves as the chair of philosophy and religion at Ole Miss and also director of the recently minted, I think we can still say that, Declaration of Independence Center for the Study of American Freedom. So, Professor, are you seeing a surge, perhaps, in conservative philosophy and viewpoints and interest in that among young folks in the colleges across this country? Sure seems like it.
I think so. Absolutely. I mean, I think the interest was always there. But I do think we just went through a period where a lot of conservative students just felt afraid or just felt like it wasn't a prudent choice to kind of express their interest into different things. I mean, I can remember even just a few years ago, students coming and talking with me privately about how they would like to, say, join Turning Point here at the Ole Miss campus, but they were worried that someone might see them go to the event or, and that it could cause them trouble. Whereas recently, I think the last Turning Point student meeting, I wasn't able to attend, but I think the last meeting had like 350 students show up for the last meeting and just overflowed this huge ballroom.
Yeah.
So I do think we've entered this time where I do think just students who aren't sure where they fit politically, maybe at least considering conservatism in a way they wouldn't have earlier. But I also think the big thing going on is that the students who knew they were conservative now kind of feel like they're not going to get in trouble for it in the same way. And so that's the big thing I'm seeing right now.
Well, and you know that in the last few years, certainly during the Biden administration, and really once all the DEI stuff started sweeping the country, it seems like every institution of higher learning, almost every major corporation, all adopted some sort of DEI initiatives, programs, built these huge staffs. I remember Rhino and I talking about Ohio State when that was really first taking hold in the late 21, early 22 time period. And we dug up some reports that said they had like 250 people in their DEI department. Like, what the heck do they do? I don't even know. But where I'm going with this is there are reports of students suggesting that their conservative viewpoints affect them in the classroom. That if they're taking classes from a professor that happens to be left-leaning, that they will actually exact some sort of retribution in their grading of their work in the classroom. Do you feel like that's going on? Is that getting more widespread, or is it starting to get under control?
I mean, I do think that most of my colleagues who are progressives and liberals don't do that kind of thing. Okay. I mean, I do think that it's a minority of people who do that, but I mean, and partly maybe it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Is some of university professors are also not very practiced at exercising their debate muscles. And so when you have some articulate, very well read, very smart conservative intellectual who's 19-year-old stand up in your class and go after you with actually a lot of pretty profound and well thought out arguments. Yeah. I think maybe there is this kind of just initial response to kind of get angry about that. But I do think that's a minority thing. Okay. I think the worry for many of the conservative students has been just, okay, if I submit my application somewhere, like let's say I want to go to law school, I mean, that application is going to be looked at by, let's say, 20 people or whatever the number is. The odds that somewhere in that 20, there's 1, 2, or 3 kind of radical professors or professors who are looking to really shape the student population is going to ensure that even if the majority of people looking at the application are okay with it, there's going to be a few who aren't okay. And so I think that was the worry. But there's no doubt that kind of thing has happened. But I am optimistic that thing is getting less frequent and that there is a lot of goodwill, even among my left-leaning colleagues across the ideological spectrum, to bring back a culture of debate, discussion, and where people don't feel like they're being penalized just because they disagree with the professor.
Or certainly the students perhaps are being a little emboldened in that they can publicly express their viewpoints, their philosophies, their value system without fear of being ostracized or being punished for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's right. That's right. And then when they have more confidence to do that, they're more ready not to kind of get angry and have a civil conversation, too.
Sure.
So it's kind of a win-win for everyone when we get to that place where there's dialogue.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, we've enjoyed having you on the program, as always, Professor Stephen Skultety, and look forward to seeing you there on the 29th. I know it's going to be a fantastic event.
Thanks, Gerard. And could I just ask everyone to please go to our social media, go to Instagram, go to X, go to Facebook, and sign up for anything from the UN Declaration Center, because we're constantly posting updates about all of our events, including the our Help with the Turning Point event.
Got it.
So if they're last minute.
Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply, and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays, coming at you live from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Friday, y'all.
All right, the old government still shut down, and the Republicans put a bill on the table there to fund the military. We talked about that a couple of days ago, and the Democrats said nope. Man, oh man. So I don't see anything that indicates we're approaching a breakthrough at this point. Sure doesn't seem like it. Both sides counting on the voters to blame the shutdown on the others. I personally believe we'll get to a resolution at some point soon. And once folks go to the polls next year, I don't think they care. People have short memories, man. Real short. And
but are they short enough to ignore the Democrats voted for the same exact thing last time?
That is the thing that is
like
most
last
damaging.
Time, I mean March.
Yeah, and of course, it's absolutely true that you guys signed on to a continuing resolution. And Chuck Schumer's right, he's supported numerous, I don't remember the number, but it's double digits through the years. And then all of a sudden now, no. And again, it's a political calculation on their part that if we really call attention to the mean old Republicans' policy towards health care, which is just mind-boggling to me, something we've talked about many times, is that our government essentially is in the health insurance business, first and foremost, which is not supposed to be. But they're really betting the farm on if we can get the voters to understand those mean old Republicans want to take your health care away, which is not true. But I think they're counting on that. I really do. That's what will be the difference maker in their favor. I'm not sure that will be the case. And then there are some reports now, Rhino, saying, hey, this thing is getting to the point where we're not going to be able to head off the automatic increase in the premiums in the healthcare exchanges due to the expiration of the enhanced subsidies because we're running out of time. We're plowing towards the open enrollment period. The letters are going to start going out. And even if there's some industry experts saying, hey, even if they fix this, we can't get that implemented in time. states that, of course, are involved in operating these exchanges say, well, they can come out with legislation, but we can't get that done in time for next year. It'll be too late. So that's becoming a problem. Now, my personal opinion, as I've said, is the Republicans will ultimately capitulate and extend the enhanced subsidies for at least a year. Just kick the can down the road and worry about it next year to get through the midterms. That's what I believe is likely to happen. But the Democrats turning down and not supporting the funding bill for the Department of Defense, essentially what they're saying, you could kind of characterize it thusly: there will be no stinking national defense until illegal immigrants and sloths who sit on the couch all day get free health care. That's kind of what they're saying. Now, I got to tell you, there's a little nuance to this illegal immigrants thing, and that's not to suggest that there aren't problems in our systems that don't ensure, even though law says it, that illegals can't get subsidies in the exchanges, that they can't sign up for Medicaid. I keep going back to your now infamous quote, "That's not my problem deal." And that's kind of what happens here, as you know, because it's bureaucrats and poorly designed and developed systems that have the responsibility of ensuring that only those who meet the eligibility requirements receive the benefits. How's that working out, by the way?
And when you layer on zero accountability for poor performance, it's just a recipe for a nightmare.
So, and my point is, it's not lack of law or need for more law to address that issue. Because the law right now says if you're illegal, you can't sign up for health care in the exchanges. But then there's always the execution of that law, carrying out of that law.
Kind of
in
like
practice.
The law says federally marijuana is illegal, but how
same
many
deal.
states have legalized it?
That's
one
right.
way or another?
Totally same deal. Good analogy there. So that's what it says. Now, and then you get into this. This is where it even gets crazier, folks. And it's important to understand this, I think, because I think it illustrates how dang messed up our immigration system is. Because you have legal immigrants that started out as illegal, and then they were granted some sort of legal status. You're an asylee, a parolee. I can't even think of all the various. It's mind-boggling how crazy that gets. So you got to distinguish between those and then those who are illegal, meaning they have not yet achieved some sort of legal status. Because our laws say, oh, you're running from the oppression in your home country, right? Okay, you're a legal asylee. That's literally how it works. I'm simplifying it a bit, but that's essentially what our law says. You come here because you're escaping some threat, and that can get a little subject. It is defined, but it's still subjectively determined, right, by our courts and our immigration system in this country. Okay, here's your asylum card, what have you. Oh, by the way, you can get premium tax credits in the exchanges now. So it's not that they're illegal at the time they sign up. It's that they started out as illegal, and our country said, oh, but this will make you legal for this purpose. That's where it's messed up, in my view. And so, but what the One Big Beautiful Bill Act did is it tightened up not on the illegals, but as far as their eligibility for said benefits, but on the legal immigrants. Which classes of legal immigrants? And the one that still blows my mind, and you may have to look it up for me real quick, but it's if you're Cuban or Haitian refugee, because that's the other status I failed to mention. Refugee. You got asylee status and refugee status. But like Haitians and Cuban refugees, they're eligible for the federal government's largesse, even under the recently passed One Big Beautiful Bill Act. What's the deal with the Haitians and Cubans? Why do they get a carve out? What's going on there?
Because it's politically unpopular to not offer a hand out or up, depending on who you're talking to people that will float themselves to the coast of Florida on inner tubes.
Okay. So it all goes back to the boat people stuff, doesn't it? I think that's right. So, but I got to tell you guys, that's actually literally in law, right? It literally says Cuban and Asia, and there's a carve out. So when you look at all this law, including in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, where they changed eligibility for certain benefits, such as ACA exchange benefits, Medicaid, SNAP, and so forth, where that was just changed to eliminate certain legal statuses, still Cubans and Haitians are an exception to that, right? Am I describing that the way you see it as well?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So just keep that in mind. Whenever you hear all the political talking heads, the illegal, this, that, just keep in mind that Cuban and Haitian immigrants that have been granted refugee status, which is like instant when they come in, they're eligible for all these benefits.
Cuban and Haitian entrants are, quote, qualified aliens, unquote, under the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996.
There you go. And so that was pulled forward and referenced in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act as well when they sort of recategorized the eligibility requirements, if you will. It says, okay, these asylees and these refugees that come from these countries, even though they're legal immigrants based on their status, they can't get these benefits, but not those that come from Cuba and Asia. Haiti, pardon me. So, oh, man. We're going to step aside for a break. When we come back, it's Kelly Bennett, Multimedia Journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News.
Gerard Gibert. Going beyond the headlines, breaking down the stories that matter to Mississippi. Middays with Gerard on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays. We are in the Element Wealth studio. It's our pleasure to welcome now Kelly Bennett, Multimedia Journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News. What's happening there, Kelly?
So much, man. It's been a crazy week, especially after that deadly weekend we had. So let me give you the latest from Leland, where they had a mass shooting. 9 people now in custody after that shooting in Leland took the lives of 6 people. Over a dozen were injured, and more arrests are expected. Now, the FBI has set up a website for any tips, relevant information, photos, videos, anything from the shooting that can help them bring 2 unidentified subjects into custody. In fact, they're now offering a reward of up to $5,000 for the person that helps them identify these individuals. Now, if you're not familiar, gunfire erupted at the intersection of 4th Street and North Main Street around midnight last Friday when a large crowd was gathered for a block party following the homecoming football game at Leland High School. The incident appears to have been sparked by a disagreement among several individuals. In total, hundreds of shots were fired. As of Thursday afternoon, 2 of the injured are said to be in critical condition. That was not the only violence, and as a result, a pair of upcoming home football games for Heidelberg High School, which is the reigning 2A champions, have been canceled. Heidelberg's October 17 matchup against Bay Springs tonight won't be taking place. Their October 24th game against Kemper County has also been canceled. According to the West Jasper School District, the decision not to take the field stems from a desire to ensure player safety as law enforcement continue to investigate a fatal shooting on October 6th. We've already talked about that. Now, there have been some other cancellations. Canton High School canceling its tailgating activities today. The Claiborne County Sheriff's Department announced there'll be no after parties following Friday's game against Fayette and Port Gibson. Picayune Memorial High School announced it's canceling tailgating activities for the remainder of the season. Some schools instead decided to increase security on their campuses. Madison County schools are among those, and it's been a lot to keep up with this week.
It really has. It's I said it on the show a couple of days ago. It's sad that we have a few people that just have to act up, and they are spoiling it for law-abiding citizens and depriving them of enjoyment and experiences that they should be able to have without fear of some sort of violence. It's really sad that this is going on, but it's good to see law enforcement is on this and making lots of progress towards achieving justice.
Yeah, the FBI jumped right in. And I agree with you, though, on the homecoming activities. I mean, look, I haven't been in high school for a minute, but that's one of the most fun memories when you look back where, the homecoming games and the high school football games. And my grandson's in band. He's playing at a game this weekend. And it is sad that kind of, it's just sad.
Yeah, we got to fix it. All right, so what about some missing lottery winners? What's going on there?
Yeah, we've got two $2 million lottery tickets that were sold in Mississippi that are still unclaimed. So you want to look at your lottery tickets if you still got them. One was sold in Moss Point at the Pilot Travel Center and another in Coldwater at Mike's Food and Gas. The Mega Millions ticket matched 5 numbers, but man, I'm having trouble talking today, Gerard. Forgive me. The Mega Millions ticket matched 5 numbers, but not the Mega Ball for the August 26th drawing. A Powerball ticket the next day matched 5 white balls and doubled its price with the Power Play add-on. Always get the multiplier. Yeah. I highly recommend that.
It's $1, right?
And you know what I've noticed? I love to play them when the jackpots are really big. But I've also noticed, and maybe you have too, the Mississippi Match 5 hits more often than not.
Absolutely.
I think it's up to 52,000 right now. So I started going in. I'll get like a Powerball. Then a couple of days later, I'll get a Mississippi Match 5. Then I'll get the Mega Millions. Then I'll go back and get the Mississippi Match 5. Because, a few thousand may not be $1 million, but it's still more than I got in the bank right now.
Well, we appreciate you playing. Of course, because I'm on the board members are not allowed to play. Nor is anyone.
Aww.
Yeah, not only can we not play, but any family members who live in our households cannot play.
Oh, man,
that's what the law says. No, I don't want to. Boy, that'd be the worst thing that could happen is a member of the board hit a big jackpot. Yeah, oh, my gosh. I already stay nervous about my kids possibly hitting it, my adult kids do not live in my household, so they're free to play.
They're eligible.
Yeah,
okay.
They're eligible.
So it's immediate family that can't play. I got you.
But no, they can't live in your household. That's what the law says. So the fact that they live outside of my household, if they lived in my household, they couldn't play. But they've got their own household, so they can play. That's the way it works. And that's true for.
I'm focused on hitting those big jackpots.
I hope you win, man. That'd be fantastic. That is fantastic. Chronic absenteeism. This is something that members of our legislature, statewide leaders, have talked about in our schools. What the heck's going on here?
Well, it spiked by more than 3% in the 2024 to 25 school year. This is according to a report from the Mississippi Department of Education that was released just yesterday. It shows that 27.6% of Mississippi's public school students missed a significant amount of time in the classroom. Now, the updated figure reflects an increase from the 2023 to 24 rate of 24.4%. The record high 28% occurred in 2021 to 22, so at least we're not there. Chronic absenteeism is defined as missing 10% or more of the school year or more than 18 days for any reason, including excused or unexcused absences and suspensions. Now, the most recent report shows approximately 1/3 of all absences were excused, so the overwhelming majority of students didn't have a valid reason for missing school. And you're right, I've heard Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann talk about hiring more truancy officers to try to get this under control. But it's a problem. But it's not just a problem for Mississippi.
No.
It's a problem across the country.
Yeah, totally true. Mississippi execution just happened a couple of days ago. The governor allowed that to proceed. What do you know about that?
This Mississippi man was convicted of kidnapping, raping, and killing a Northeast Mississippi community college student back in 1993.
Gosh.
He was executed on Wednesday night, and Fox's Tom Rigotti has more on that.
59-year-old Charles Crawford was declared dead following a lethal injection at the Mississippi State Penitentiary in Parchman. Crawford had spent more than 30 years on death row. He was convicted of abducting Christy Ray from her parents' home in northern Mississippi. When Ray's mother came home, her daughter's car was gone, and a handwritten ransom note had been left on the table. The note was traced back to Crawford, who told authorities he blacked out and did not recall killing Ray. Tom Rigotti, Fox News.
You know what was disturbing about that case, Gerard? He was just about to stand trial for another rape when Ray was murdered. And then you had another death row inmate whose request for a new hearing has been denied by the Mississippi Supreme Court. Martez Abram was sentenced to death for killing 2 people at the Walmart Supercenter in South Haven in 2019. Anthony Brown and Brandon Gales were both fatally shot. Abram's lawyers unsuccessfully argued that evidence was mishandled by the previous court and that the death sentence should be overturned.
Unbelievable. Well, heinous act committed by this individual. When was he sentenced? I'm thinking about being in jail 32 years. Has he been on death row for 32 years? Do we know anything about that?
Are you talking about Crawford?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over 30 years.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. 3 decades. He used every appeal. I mean, he basically ran out of appeals.
I see.
The governor was finally like, look, his guilt is not in question. And, you know,
that's the law.
Exhausted any legal recourse. Yeah,
that's the dang law. All right, before you go cruising the coast, set some records.
It did. It set records, and guess what? We talked to Woody Bailey earlier this week. There are already over 1,000 people registered for Cruising the Coast next year.
Unbelievable.
You want more info on that story and all other things, Mississippi News? Just go to supertalk.fm.
Kelly Bennett, Multimedia Journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News, is giving us an excellent rundown of all the news that SuperTalk News Department's been tracking. Appreciate it, Kelly.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
We're stepping aside for a break. Middays is coming up next.
She's in love with me and I feel fine.
Gerard Gibert. He keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays. We are live in the Element Wealth studio. Thank you for joining us today. So I did want to pass on something that from Dr. Skultety's interview with us that he tried to sneak in there at the end of the the segment, but I think we ran out of time and didn't get everything out. But that's to sign up for the Declaration, of Independence Center for the Study of American Freedom. They do produce a really nifty newsletter. I'm a subscriber. And interestingly enough, received the latest issue just before the professor joined us on the air. But it's really good, and it talks about classes being offered, events coming up, and just very informative. So recommend you take a look at that. This is really good when you think about most of what happens on college campuses leaning to the left, because as all the data shows us, Rhino, like 95% of the faculty and the administration are left-leaning, contribute to Democrats, espouse leftist Democrat philosophy. Some are way the hell out there. I mean, in Marxist land, literally in Marxist land, right? And so this is a breath of fresh air when you've got, in the midst of all that, you've got some voices for conservative values and principles, and that's what the good professor brings to our state. And at my alma mater there, very proud of that at the university. So, yeah, do think about signing up. I think you'd enjoy it. I'm just looking here at the class lineup for the spring. And here's a class that they're going to be offering. What are the conditions of liberty? Well, I think that's a great discussion. It's certainly in a classroom environment and among young people. Let's be honest, that's a big dang discussion we ought to have among all of us, because, and I'll give you an example, something we talk about a lot. The left says health care is a right, right? That's probably the most prolific declaration that they make with respect to rights. You could get into some of the voting rights stuff, which is been a controversial issue this week at the Supreme Court, whereas you think, well, voting rights, I naturally jump and conclude in my mind, well, that just means we're going to let you vote. But these folks have argued for years, oh, no, I got to be able to vote for someone that I like, essentially. And the courts say, well, you got to go back and redraw those districts to make sure that you get someone that these people would be in favor of voting for. Is that not essentially what they did? They
pretty much
just perverted voting rights to that level. We went from, no, we agree, you're a citizen in this country, mainly talking about slaves, when slaves, of course, were freed, and then we made law ensuring they had the full rights of a citizen, which included you can vote. We had to go beyond that. Not only can you vote, we're going to make sure that these states draw these districts so you can vote for Benny Thompson. I don't think I'm exaggerating here whatsoever. And the courts have finally said, no, that's not exactly what this says. And you could also say that that's what happened in the Roe v. Wade overturning. No, the Constitution didn't say you got a right to have an abortion. But previous court cases, Roe v. Wade, essentially asserted that. Said you can't block it. And the court said, no, that's not right. We're not saying that the federal government blocks it, prohibits it. We're saying that's a matter for the states. Our Constitution does say, well, let's see, I can't find that in here. I got to go to the states. Put very simply. And that's all our court did. They did their job, in other words. Here's what doing their job is. They took their lawmaker hat off, because the people who made that decision in 73 put their lawmaker hats on. And nothing perverts and threatens the integrity of our system and our freedom and our adherence to the Constitution than when the highest court in the land acts as lawmakers in robes, as the saying goes. And that's exactly what they're doing this week, and, man, it's good to see. And this shouldn't even be a matter of conservative versus progressive. This should be a matter of, I don't see either. I'm looking at the documents that frame our law.
But that's not the way half the country's been playing ball.
That ain't right.
For longer than I've been alive.
That's so true. So you fools that told us if we elect Donald Trump, it's the end of democracy. And again, I don't need you to tell me we're not a democracy, we're a republic. I understand. Democracy as an adjective means government of, by, and for the people. That's fundamental. Our Republican form of government is a category of the democratic form of government. You can also have one where people make laws without lawmakers, don't have representative government. Ours is a representative form of democracy. I know I'm digressing a bit.
Because democracy falls apart when the number gets larger than like 300. So
true. Completely true. But
you can grow that number up to 600, 700, maybe 800 with proper rules in place. That it's still a true democracy with rules, but yeah, after that it just becomes chaos.
Yeah, it's dysfunctional, right? It can't really function that way. So our founders understood that, our framers, and they said, look, we think this is a pretty good democratic, as in democracy, form of government where we elect representatives to take care of that force. And by the way, here are the articles that lay out the various branches of government and those who represent us. And even though we don't directly elect Supreme Court justices, for example, we elect the president who nominates those justices who must be approved by the senators we elect. So just kind of an explanation of how the Republican form of government envisioned by our founders was to function.
It was envisioned by our founders that the senators would also be appointed, but we decided to change that.
That's absolutely true, and thank you for pointing that out. And some days I wonder, should we not return to that? That was pretty wise on their part. In retrospect, was it not? And maybe you could argue it was a mistake when we changed that. But back to this Declaration of Independence Center for the Study of American Freedom, ideals of liberty in the U.S. founding. And again, I'm going to say that defining liberty, defining rights, because rights are an integral part of liberty, of course. Our founding document didn't say that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among those being life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and health care. Pretty sure it didn't say that. And so all these Democrats that say health care is a right, you need to go read the damn document. And I know your former...
And the most vocal opponents would say, well, that document was written by slaveholders. It's tainted. We should we were rid of it.
Well, have at it. You know what the process is to change that? Go at it. Good luck. You're going to fail. Oh, man. So just looking at some of these other courses, though, Rhino, the relationship between freedom and economic systems. We talk about that on this program a lot. It's perfect. I'd love to see students getting involved in this. The influence of freedom on markets, fiscal and monetary policy. Wow. We could get into some wonky stuff there. That would be fun. How labor and or capital investment impacts freedom. This is great. This is more practical information that applies to our world and the debates we're having and the policy that our lawmakers are dealing with and honestly our citizens and our businesses on a daily basis, rather than being stuck in some philosophical, grandiloquent mumbo-jumbo that really doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. Do you sometimes, I know I do, just get put out with, well, you're making a lot of, you're stating a lot of big words there, and you're using some really complex statement structure. What in the hell are you trying to say? Do you run into that? Like, what? Tell me how that makes me safer, healthier, more prosperous, because that's what we care about. Related to that. Otherwise, okay, that's great. But it doesn't really relate to
But you've got to have empathy for the stardust in galaxies millions of miles away, or you're a terrible person.
Exactly right. All right, we're going to step aside for a break. Tom Petty bumping us out here. Coming right back in the Element Well studio.
Up. Covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert. Middays with Gerard. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Another Kiss tune there. Appreciate that, Rhino, of course. That in memory of deceased Kiss band member Ace Frehley, lead guitarist, right? I believe so. Man. So we just told you about the Democrats blocking the defense bill. Again, need 60 votes in the Senate to pass these spending measures. And they blocked that. That, of course, after having voted 10 times, right, over there in the Senate to reopen the government, and that did not happen. There's a lot of talk. I want to pass this on quick, little nugget you might not be aware of. There's a lot of talk about how do we address our deficit situation, of course, and our debt. And one of the things that I have seen is a suggestion, crazy as it sounds to me, to end the pre-tax treatment of your purchase of group health insurance. So there's a deduction from your pay to pay for your premiums, your portion of that. Typically your employer pays some part, you contribute a part. That pays your total premium for the health care. Again, when you're enrolled through the group plans that your employer offers. Well, if you look on your check and do some of the figuring and ciphering there, you'll realize that the amounts you pay are not subject to income tax. So that comes out of your pay before income tax is calculated and withheld from your pay, as well as the amount your employer pays is not income to you. So there's a disparity in that favorable tax treatment applies only to group coverage. In other words, if you are buying your coverage directly from the carrier or in the ACA exchanges, which is actually directly from the carrier, just the exchange is the marketplace is facilitating that, you don't get that tax treatment. An example is a small business owner, entrepreneur, small business owner, small contractor that may purchase coverage for themselves or their families through a carrier directly. That would be referred to as in the individual market as opposed to the group market. And they don't get the same tax benefits. And I've argued for years that they should, honestly. I've taken a different slant. But now, given our deficit spending situation, there are some who believe, well, that's just too big of a giveaway. So you know what I'm saying? And they want to change that so that those of us who do obtain our coverage through our employer and do enjoy that favorable tax treatment, meaning the amount our employer pays isn't income to us and the amount we pay is deducted for our taxes are withheld, they want to change that. And they've done all these calculations on how much revenue that would raise for government. They're always looking at raising revenue, aren't they? Never.
It would definitely be too much to ask to look at it from the opposite viewpoint of, well, allow for a tax incentive for those who buy in the exchanges then.
Right. Exactly.
But that would require actually having to do some work and
can't do
trim
that.
some fat and cut some spending, and that's just never going to happen in D.C.
Absolutely can't do that. So, but I hope that doesn't happen. Honestly, I think that would be bad policy. I think that the pre-tax treatment honestly encourages people to sign up for coverage. I think what you'd have if all of a sudden the coverage that you obtain through your employer were no longer as favorable from a tax perspective, you'd have a lot of people dropping their coverage. And there's no penalty for that now because that, of course, got revoked in 2019, I believe, under the president's first term. So that is not something that I look favorably upon, but apparently there are some people that seem to think that is something we should consider doing, is ending that favorable tax treatment. Not a good deal, in my view.
No. A D.C. politician wants more of your hard-earned money to do jack diddly squat with and waste it.
And to your point, think about this. So the Republicans' talking point is we're not going to bend on the CR because we don't want illegals to have health care. And the Democrats' talking point is, well, the Republicans didn't have any problem giving tax breaks to the wealthy while at the same time taking away health benefits. That's why that so many aren't able to get health care coverage, is because they gave tax benefits to the wealthy. That's the twisted sort of logic that drives Democrat philosophy and Democrat policy making. I know, I need your money to do what I want to do with it. You don't get to keep it. Coming right back.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. You are tuned in to Middays. We're coming at you live from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Friday, y'all.
Oh, Bill de Blasio, you remember that guy. Dems who do not back Mondami will be left out in the cold, he says. You must support this communist. I'm looking right now, this is video from yesterday of this guy making his way down the streets of New York City. I'm just blown away. What's happening in this country, man? Why are so many people attracted to this socialism garbage? And this guy's not just a socialist. He has announced, by the way, that all of these various programs, the free buses, how's that going to work out, by the way? Who the hell is going to be on the free buses? Drug addicts and gang members. They're going to use the taxpayer-funded transportation system to make things worse. Good, law-abiding people that seek to travel around the city for productive uses,
they'll be the ones that suffer.
Right. Every time. Every dang time. Well, he's announced when asked, because they had a debate. He and Cuomo and Sliva had a debate, right? And he was asked, how are you going to pay for all this? I mean, he bared it out. Well, we're going to tax all the rich people.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I didn't even know Sliva was at the debate, because apparently he didn't say anything clip-worthy.
No.
I haven't seen a single clip of him at the debate.
8 million people in New York, right? I think in New York City. That's the best we can get on a major party, from a major party. And look, we have to recognize his deal with the Guardian Angels, a godsend in its time, no doubt. And I remember when the gang violence was totally out of control in New York back in the pre-Giuliani period. And it was the Guardian Angels that I think did a lot of good, got a lot of attention. But as a mayor, I just don't know. I don't think he's a good candidate. I think he's a good man. I want to be clear there. He's a quality person, and I think that he's done some noble work. But I don't think he's a... The goal is to win elections. That gets lost sometime, doesn't it? There are a lot of just good people that would make good candidates. A bunch of them.
Oh, yeah.
He is such a person. Cuomo, he just ain't a good person. That's a little different. And this guy, Mondami, who seems to have captivated everyone and put them under a spell because of his brash looks and smile, but underneath the surface is a diabolical freaking Marxist. And we're about to turn over America's largest city to this guy. Now, I personally don't think he'll get any of that crap done he wants to do. The rent control and the free buses and reimagining the police department. Also, of course, because if you're going to be a good Marxist, you can't have any systems that might provide some sort of benefit and treatment to those who actually earned it. Can't do that, so he's already announced that in New York City it would be his goal to end the gifted and talented programs. Now, that's nothing new. You remember, again, you got to look at the George Floyd incident, and everything, boom, started there. That was ground zero. But I remember talking on this program about Boston, which is a very left-leaning city, major American city. They do have a great baseball team, though, the Red Sox. Remember when I think were the first to announce they were ending what they called their exam schools. And they call them that. That's been the long-term name to describe those special schools for those students who can pass exams that prove they've got superior intellect. And they would be admitted to these exam schools, which focused on its pedagogy on people at that level, of that age groups that had superior intellect. What the hell's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? But they said, no, we can't do that because
everyone must be equally miserable.
Correct.
We are all comrades. We are all miserable.
And then it was California that went to a lottery-based system, San Francisco, to admit people to their gifted and talented. They all got different descriptions depending on the programs.
You have different names for it depending on the school district.
That's true. You're right. Not just the state or the city, but the district itself, because they're operated at the district level, but with, of course, support from state funding. But he says he's going to end that in New York. Can't let that happen. We can't take the best and brightest and the most studious and the hardest working that happen to be endowed by our Creator with superior intellect. We can't put them in an environment where we may further nurture and develop that intellect, that precious brain asset, to do something good for society. Second order thinking. I know. I'm out there again. It pisses me off. Why even have any competitive endeavors in our society?
Don't give them any ideas.
Oh, crap. You're right about that. Because they would support that. They would embrace that, sadly.
Because having winners and losers is mean. And according to them, likely racist.
Oh, man. So, yeah, you're right about that. At the heart of it is always that. Look, I care more than you do, right? That's what they're trying to say. They're like patting themselves on the back.
Because sadly, about half the population reacts to that.
That is bad. But seeing this guy walk the streets of New York, absolutely an army of people, and I'll point it out again, these are well-dressed, well-endowed people with expensive, custom-made, stupid signs.
Nothing new in the cycle of history. You look at the vast majority of charismatic communist leaders, they've all come from at least the very minimum moderate wealth. They're just spoiled brats looking for something to do.
Attention, as you always point out as well. You know that. Don't let a camera get between you and them, that's for sure, or you between the camera and them. Oh, my gosh. Meantime, Hakeem Jeffries, you know who he is. He's the leader of the Democrats over there.
Timu Obama?
Yeah. He's right. He's the in the House, that is. He's accusing the Republican press, the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, with a whole bunch of insults earlier today. Good grief. What the heck's up with that?
The Democrats are losing their mind because the mainstream media, not saying that they don't have it coming. They need to get it from both sides because the mainstream media has failed to do half of what they were called to do. But the Democrats are upset that even the talking heads in mainstream media are questioning, why can't y'all just vote on this?
I agree. And so you're right in that the biggest, I think, knock against them, strike against them is that, wait, you've always voted for these deals, but now the scenario's a little different, and you've decided you're not going to. That's not right. And by the way, in the past, you have a history of denouncing Republicans if they should choose to block moving forward with a continuing resolution. You're a dang hypocrite. And as you like to say, if it weren't for double standards, they would have none. And I think if you looked up double standards in the dictionary, a photo of Chucky Schumer is right next to it. So
right next to his picture by the grill where it's not on and the burgers are still raw.
That's right. Oh, who could forget that? Oh, man. But Hakeem Jeffries, he said, you've got Caroline Leavitt who's sick. She's out of control. And I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone-cold liar, or all the above. Oh, aren't you just so strong there? Aren't you something there, Leader Jeffries? I say that with tongue-in-cheek. You're a really big man there, coming down like that with the slurs and insults on a 20-something-year-old White House press secretary. Unbelievable. Truly is incredible. On the C Spire text line, the gangs are about to be bad again. Man, I surely hope that's not the case. But there's no doubt that when you have less presence of law enforcement, more importantly, when you don't enforce the laws, it tends to spawn more violence, more criminal activity. I got to share with you on the other side of the break, a business person in Portland, I don't know if you saw this, who went on a bit of a rant and said, this is it. You won't believe the story. We'll get on it on the other side of the break here from the Element Well studio.
Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
We're back with you in the Element Well studio. So I want to share the story real quick, then get to some texts. We got several over here, and it's in Portland, Oregon, and it's a business owner who made the statement earlier this month. Recorded this on video and as I believe distributed it to the city leaders. Said, "We are going to die. Literally, if something's not done about the crime and the vacuum of law enforcement." She said that the losses, I think she runs a coffee house, due to crime and rising costs have been ignored, and businesses in the city are at a tipping point. Says, we don't have enough police. We needed help yesterday, and I'll tell you about that situation. in a second. We need help or we are going to die. Said she was considering selling her building and leaving Portland, but you can't sell commercial property in the city because of that. Now, I think it was yesterday where I said it's just fundamental responsibility of government is protection of life and property. And you can't have anything. You cannot have a successful, thriving society, anything, unless you've got law and order. This president gets it. The prior one did not. More worried about coddling criminals, decriminalizing crime, reimagining the police department, and all that garbage crap.
All because they either can't or refuse to understand statistical reality.
Totally true. So she made a very compelling statement. It was an emotional testimony before some of the local officials, and she described a city essentially where the criminals have free rein. Police won't act. She says business owners live in daily fear for their lives. She said a few months ago at our bar, there's a group of people that will descend. We have to shut down all the time. 45 people. 2 women in the group started breaking glass in our bar, stabbing each other. Bartender called us. We pulled up the security camera live. She was screaming. Blood splattered on the security cameras. Police came. No name was taken. No report. No follow-up. No accountability. She said this is not an isolated incident. We've had people that have been 86th. They come back with guns in hand, standing a foot off our sidewalk for hours every single weekend. Our staff is terrified. We've endured break-ins, vandalism. We've been held up by gunpoint. And it feels like nobody cares. Nobody's coming. How could this be acceptable? She went on to, another went on to describe, as they were testifying, a run-in that she had that got personal. Said that she heard gunfire and looked up, and it was a life or death situation. Looked up, and it was her nephew. Heard somebody knock at the door. It was her nephew's girlfriend. Knocked on the door to tell her the nephew had been shot. She called 911. Didn't get a response. Got a recording on 911. Life or death situation. She said, I tried to get to my car and tried to save him. People were standing around when I pulled next to his car. That's where he got shot. Nobody would help lift him up. Weighed 240 pounds. Too heavy for her to lift up to put in her car to transport to the hospital. He ended up dying right there. No answer on 911. The sad thing is that's intentional. Oh, no, you need to call a social worker, right? That's what they tell you. Forget about the fact that this human being is bleeding to death, having been shot, assaulted, with a gun, shot by some damn murderous thug. This is incredible. Says to this day, the killer, not been apprehended, and sees no interest on the part of the police department to identify and investigate. Said that the city leaders have abandoned us. Now, I know we sit here in Mississippi and say, man, that's Portland. And that's left coast crap. But I think it's more widespread than meets the eye. And I will certainly admit that we are way more respectful of law enforcement and law and order in Mississippi. But just look at what happened last weekend in Mississippi. Now, the good news there is our law enforcement responded and immediately launched investigations, identified perpetrators, have apprehended some. So that's the good news. It's even worse, though, when you have a city like Portland where they're like, there's no law enforcement, and there's fear. And the stupid city leaders, the Marxist city leaders, would stand in front of the people and say, oh, yeah, well, that's okay. right?
Because crime numbers go down if you don't have a police report.
It's correct. And they can run around and say, look what we did. We lowered crime. No, you didn't. You just don't report it. You don't. Not only that, you don't take any action that would cause any of those incidents to be registered as crime. Intentionally. It's really terrible. On the C Spire text line, Brian wants to know, are there any homecoming games tonight? Honestly, I don't know, Brian, and I know that some respective school districts have made announcements, right, about what their plans are for the duration of the season in light of last week's shooting incidents, 5 total, 2 in colleges, 3 in high schools in the state of Mississippi. Man, oh man. Rodney King was African American. King said this as he was arrested. Can we just all get along? Rodney King, 1991. Pardon me, I got to back up a little bit. That's Dave in Madison. Yeah, I remember that. He did absolutely say that when he got arrested.
He said it while he was being arrested because he was getting beaten and it was caught on video. He said it after he either got surrounded by news agencies or held a press conference. But I remember the video. It was him all beat up saying, can't we all just get along?
I thought it was part of the process, maybe.
No, because he got beat up by the cops at nighttime and caught on video, and the video of him saying, can't we all just get along, is in the daytime.
Yeah, that's right. But I seem to recall he was surrounded by law enforcement, right, when and maybe handcuffed when he said that, can we all just get along? I could be wrong about that. It was a long time ago. But, yeah, I agree. I don't know why we have to go play shoot 'em up with other human beings and, like I say, ruin it for everyone. A small number. KC on the C Spire text line. My daughter was just in New York last week. She said she and her group were on the subway and witnessed a man who was obviously strung out on drugs walk onto the subway, start asking people for money, approach 2 young men, ask them for money, and then just punch one of them. The 2 young men did nothing. Luckily, my daughter and her group got off at the next stop without this man approaching him. I can only imagine that fewer law enforcement officers in the city will only increase this type of violence. It's absolutely true. And while I know a lot of people are upset with the president people on the left mainly, upset at the president for deploying the National Guard into some of these cities to bring some law and order in the environment, you know, I'm not upset about it, and it's necessitated by what we just talked about, by city leaders in a major American city such as Portland that's saying, yeah, we're just not going to enforce the law here, or whatever the heck they're saying. They don't seem to have an interest in.
And nobody on the New York subway is going to come to save you because they don't want to get put through the ringer like Daniel Penny was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Who could forget that? Let's see. Philip in Walthall County says, Lafayette, Louisiana man arrested for being a member of Hamas participating in October 7th attacks. That's close to home. Wow. That's interesting. Thanks for that, Philip. Oh, let's see. West Tallahatchie homecoming tonight on the C Spire text line. Appreciate that. Better check some of your local judges and prosecutors in Mississippi. Law enforcement may show up, but then the criminal is let off. Happens more than you think in Mississippi. Thank you for that. I believe that. And, of course, it varies, as you know, from judge to judge. They're up there applying their social justice activism instead of doing their duty, which is to adhere to the law and be totally unbiased in their dispensing of it. Donnie from Pike County says, yes, there's homecoming county tonight here in Pike County. North Pike has its homecoming tonight. Thank you for that, Donnie. Be safe, man. And I know you will. And be vigilant. And that's to everybody. Don't let the bad guys win. Don't let them win. Can't do it. Can't do it. Too much at stake. Too much to save. And it's worth saving. Just the basic freedom of enjoying a dang football game. My gosh. Coming right back. Stay with us.
Now back to Middays with Gerard here on Super Talk Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio, winding down the week here. Lots of football games on tap over the weekend. Little weather moving into the Magnolia States, going to sweep through, cool things off for us as well. A whole bunch of stuff going on. Larry and Mize wants to know, why haven't we arrested or shut George Soros down, I should say, not arrested, pardon me for that. Well, I think there are people that would like to. But you got to find some reason to do so. Can't just shut down a private individual or organization unless they're breaking some sort of laws. So,
which, I mean, if it is discovered that his funding found its way into the hands of Antifa and he was knowingly still continuing said funding, then, yeah, he was aiding and abetting a domestic terrorist group.
Yeah, and if that can be empirically proven, then he should suffer the consequences for that. And I'm quite certain people are working on that right now. I mean, he's an evil person, in my view. And it's really dangerous when you have someone that's well-financed as he is, well-endowed financially as he is, that's just off the charts left-loon nut. That's what this guy is. And he personally, of course, funded the campaigns of a lot of these activists, DAs, and other people who are doing what somebody just sent us on the text line, said, yeah, it's happening in Mississippi. Now, I don't know if he personally invested in any races in Mississippi, judicial races and the like. That's where
you also got to remember,
DAs.
I get it. His name has become synonymous with leftist radical funding, but he's pretty much given up the reins to his son, Alex.
Yeah.
It's Alex Soros that's going around taking pictures with liberal politicians like he's collecting Pokemon.
Yeah. I agree. Tim and McGee says, with all due respect, when someone gets shot and killed on the interstate, we don't shut it down. When someone is shot outside a bar, they don't close the bar for good. What the hell? If people don't want to go, it's their choice. Quit giving in to a few. I couldn't agree more with you, my man, Tim, that we've been preaching on that this week, to don't let the small number of bad guys win. It's on a larger global scale, it's terrorism, right? It's a pocket, if you will, a cohort of a few people that want to wield so much carnage.
That was the point I brought up when you were out on Wednesday with Dave filling in, was this smells an awful lot like letting the terrorists win if you close all your activities down and shut everything down because of the actions of a few.
100%. And it exhibits weakness on our part. And it almost aligns somewhat with the leftist ideology that I discuss a lot, which is, well, we have these various problems. We just can't do that anymore, right? Climate change, you can't eat meat, can't travel in a car, can't use fossil fuels, can't have wood-fired pizza ovens and all that kind of nonsense. That's always their solution. Just do with less. Do with less. And I feel like that's what's happening here to some extent. Okay, well, we don't really feel like we can maintain order, so we're just going to cancel everything. Man, I hope that's not the case. And I don't want to sound as if I'm critical of the fact that it is well within their purview, these school districts and schools, et cetera, whatever level those decisions are being made. I just disagree with it, and I hope they find another solution, which is don't deprive good people, law-abiding people. Same thing with guns. I mean, that's the age-old argument, right? Oh, the guns did it, ban the guns, instead of, well, why don't we address the root cause problem here? These are just bad people, most of whom obtain their guns through legitimate means. Nothing you would do. Illegitimate means, pardon me. Nothing you would do would change any of that. Hasn't that been proven in these cities and states that have highly restrictive gun control measures? What has that done?
I mean, just look at all the videos on social media of gangbangers and wannabe gangbangers with their Glocks with the switches, the fun switch on the back that turns the pistol into an auto pistol, making it fully automatic, or the illegally obtained military weaponry that some cities are facing now with their gangs. All of those which are either illegal to own or exceedingly difficult, with several hoops and background checks for law-abiding citizens to own them. But do you think the thugs really care?
No. And it's just another, I feel like, it's just another example of how the left thinks, oh, we'll just make laws and policies and rules and regulations, and we'll just tell people to do with less, right? That'll fix it. They couldn't be more wrong in that respect. That doesn't do squat. So, well, I don't know.
It's because they don't actually have to care about getting anything done. They just have to care about the next election, where they convince the people that are weak-minded and soft to vote on emotion and feelings.
So true. Well, I hear you, Tim, and I'm with you as well. I don't want to capitulate to the bad people, the evil in the world, again, that is depriving good people in the world from just enjoying life and pursuing their goals and objectives. It's not what it was about, which goes back, once again, oddly enough, to our founding documents and the key statement there in the Declaration of Independence, which was the precursor to writing the Constitution and forming up the government, which is, first thing we got to realize is that your main right comes from God. That's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And guess what? It turns out we got to have law and order. And it's our job as government to protect those rights, which come from our Creator. It's pretty fundamental. And you should be laser focused on that, government. Everything else, honestly, is noise.
Government is God. That's why they worship at the altar of government. And they believe that the founding documents were written by racists, so they should be changed.
So true.
Or done away with.
Totally true.
Because Democrats don't live in reality, they live in la-la land.
That's so true. But
where men can get pregnant. And doing a burnout on a rainbow crosswalk is a hate crime.
That is so crazy but sick. Kennesaw, Georgia mandates people own guns, says Matt in Burnsville. Mm-hmm. Really? So everybody in Kennesaw's got to have a gun. Okay.
I forget what the cutoff is. I don't know if it's an age or whatever, or when you register to vote or something. But yeah, you got a gun. And crime is almost non-existent.
That's what I was going to say. If you want to deter crime, you just make sure every person in the community, certainly every household, is weaponized.
What's the old saying? An armed population is a polite population?
So true. I have a lot of different guns, says Timmy McGee. You know, all of mine are just where I left them this morning. I hear you, man. Caleb in Starkville says canceling all tailgating to prevent possible violence is like killing a population so they can't catch COVID. Richard from Columbus, it's known that Soros is putting up finances for Scott Colomb in Columbus running for U.S. Senate. Yeah, I think you're right on that, Richard. I wouldn't be surprised at that whatsoever. I think the Democrats smell blood in the water. You heard us talk to Maurice Sanderson, GOP strategist, who's no stranger to all things political campaigns and races yesterday, and she thinks they're wasting their time. She feels very confident, as do I, that Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith will prevail in the race. But they do think like maybe they'll spend some money here kind of to stage a future race. Who knows? And of course, there's little bad blood there between the senator and Scott Colomb because she did what's called blue slipping to Scott Colomb for a federal judgeship, and it's typical in our Senate, our U.S. Senate, for senators from a state where an individual is being considered for a seat on the federal bench to let their Judiciary Committee colleagues know how they feel about that individual within the boundaries of their state. That's known as blue slipping, that practice. And no secret that she's let it be known she does not think he would be a good pick for such a post. And so now he's running against her in the U.S. Senate for a U.S. Senate seat. Interesting. Alaska's like that. Everybody's armed on the C Spire text line. Southern Heritage events. The founding documents constrain the government, not charge it to protect us or our rights. Protectionist government is a product of the 14th Amendment. Well, I believe the government's job is to protect the rights that are endowed to us by our Creator, is what I particularly believe. But I hear what you're saying. And you're absolutely right that the Constitution is more about saying what you can't do than what you should be doing. I'm with you on that. We're stepping aside for a break, coming back in the Element Well studio with the final segment.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. Middays. So, a little shameless plug here. We got the barn burner coming up Monday at Representative Lance Varner's place, his farm, his barn, literally, in a pavilion. And the house band's going to be performing. That's coming up Monday, 6 o'clock. If you happen to be in the area or want to make a little short trip, it's going to be good. The governor's going to be there speaking a little bit. Speaker of the House. I think the lieutenant governor has an event scheduled on the coast, if I'm not mistaken, so he will not be in attendance. But there'll be other statewide leaders and legislators and just a bunch of good people from across the region will be there. On the C Spire text line, Gentry at Indianola was moved to 2 o'clock today. Really? Mississippi Valley State tomorrow. Interesting. 2 o'clock. We're going to play a high school football game at 2. Is that in response to what happened last week, you think?
Yeah.
That's
so
not
that
good.
Everything's done by the time the sun goes down.
Oh, so because people go crazy when the sun goes down?
Apparently.
Ah, I got you. That's sick, man. That's terrible. I don't want to be too critical of the people who made these decisions. I don't want to second guess that, and I would need to think about what I would do, and I get it. Safety's paramount. They're nervous. They're worried, and the last thing any of them want is for something to happen. We got to come up with something else, though. And what I mean by that is this leftist approach, which is always, you just got to do without and be happy. It's Greta Thunberg on steroids is what it is. How dare you? How dare you? Right?
Now she's claiming that she was tortured by Israel.
Oh, my gosh. Get a freaking life. So, I got to share this with you. You know who Christine Amanpour is? She's the CNN.
How is she still on TV?
She's like 103. I don't know. But I saw a report of some reporting she does because, she does a lot of reporting that's just terrible. It gets flagged by some of the news outlets. And I don't remember what it was about. She, of course, is always in the Middle East, and she kind of rose to prominence when the place started blowing up back in the 90s, and all of a sudden, there's Christina Manapur from CNN right in the thick of things. Okay, so where I'm going that made me think about is she's changed her coif. She has a new hairstyle. So, it includes bangs. She's a little over bangs, maybe, but there's a meme. I guess you're never too old for bangs, so I probably shouldn't say that. It looks like she's trying to make herself look younger. I'll put it that way. So there's a meme going around. It's got her.
No, a woman approaching 70 trying to look younger.
It's got her, and right next to it is Greta
Thunberg
with the bang. You've seen it, and somebody said, "Hey, hey, Christina, Greta called. She wants her bangs back."
The next in line should be, "Hey, He-Man called. He wants his hair back."
That's right.
Because I could not stop laughing at the meme of Greta Thunberg with her bangs and He-Man with his bangs. And it's like, that's the same hairdo.
It sure
the
is.
Same exact one.
Oh, my gosh. And does she just not exemplify something, talking about Greta, what we talk about all the time? Always a scowl on her face, right? Perpetually aggrieved, always mad, always pissed. You can't laugh. You can't. You make me laugh because you're so outrageous.
But we have to protect the environment. Oh, wait, we have to free Palestine. Oh, wait, we're going to throw these cell phones in the ocean. Like, that's not pollution.
That's right. Just in search of...
Oh, and we're going to burn down our own boats because we don't know how to shoot a flare.
In search of a cause,
Maybe
right?
quit taking advice on how to run the world from an uneducated idiot.
Oh, let's see. On the C Spire text line before we go, my oldest found out a few years ago back that an acquaintance of his stole guns from unlocked vehicles, would box them up and take it to the bus station in Jackson, then send to a family member in Chicago. They'd be sold on the streets and the profit split between the two. It's just that simple. And I did notify the authorities. Unbelievable. This idea that you're going to somehow impose stupid gun control law and restrictions and measures. You'll pat yourself on the back for 2 minutes, and within that period of time, somebody will use an illegitimately obtained gun to kill somebody in this country. That's how ridiculous and worthless that is. Have a great weekend, everyone. Back with you Monday. Stay safe, and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.